When I was looking at your homework on Wednesday, I noticed that a lot of you seem to have problems with composition, about not knowing how to place shapes and also type objects and things like that in relation to one another. I saw that with the photography usage, but also with the shape usage, and I saw it in a lot of you. So I thought that it would be good to make two tutorials, one of them about ratios and shape placements, and then the other one about photography usage. So here's the first one, which is about shape usage and proportions and ratios and things like that. And I'm going to start with this page right here, with this term that you will already be familiar with, which is called golden ratio. And basically what we talk about when we talk about the golden ratio is we talk about this number 1,618, or roughly 1.6. And when you read it like this, or at least when I read it like this, and when I look at it like this, it usually doesn't become very clear to me what is exactly meant by that. So a good way of figuring this out is by actually applying what they are talking about to design. So when you read it like this, there is the same as ratio of their sum to the larger of the two quantities, blah blah blah, then it becomes very difficult to understand. But I am going to be using some things from this page. There's one diagram here, which is this one right here, which I'm going to download as an SVG file right now, right in front of you, so that you can, I already have the other one, so that you can see exactly how this is done. I have the SVG file here, and this is a diagram that a very famous typographer created based upon medieval manuscript pages. Jan Tschichold is the name of the typographer, and I'm going to be using that. And then we also have this famous golden ratio document, this here, and I have already downloaded that. So, but in order to understand this a little bit better, I found this page, and I think it's actually very good in terms of explaining how you can apply this to your own graphic design projects. So if you go to these different sections here, I guess it doesn't follow the menu up top, but it's right down here. Then you get a lot of very useful hints. So set your dimensions with the golden ratio and things like that, and then also look at examples that use the ratio, spacing a layout with the golden ratio diagram, where it's also talking about negative and positive space, which is something that I will also be talking about quite a bit during these two tutorials, and so on and so forth. So what I did is something quite simple. I opened my Tschichold, one of my Tschichold layouts, which is the one that I am actually going to be using for the folder cover. Now I Now I already have the golden ratio diagram right here. What I did is, when I first opened it, it had a lot of other stuff on it, like such as these extra, well, let me show you right here what it looked like. It had all of these things, the M, the N, M, N, and then all of these things. I cleaned all of those up, and then just take the whole thing, copy, and then boom, paste. Now it's going to come as a horizontal. We need a vertical, so I'm just going to rotate it, holding down the shift key so that it rotates exactly 90 degrees. Hold down the alt key, scale it up, and now what you can see is that the width does not correspond to the A4. because the proportions of the A4 are different from the proportions of that diagram. So what we need to do is we need to cheat a little bit. However, when we cheat, we're not really going to be cheating, because the proportions are always going to be the same when we scale it horizontally. So I'm holding down the Shift and the Alt key now, so that I only scale it horizontally to fit the A4 format. Now, just rename it so that we know exactly where it is. And now what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to start adding a whole bunch of rectangles to this, actually, before I do that, let me see how the logo is doing. Now the logo, funnily enough, seems to almost be in proportion. Not completely, but almost. So I can just make it like this. However, it might be a really good idea if I were to bring this down to here as well, which means that the proportions of the boxes on the logo are now going to get different to what is here in terms of the cat and the typography. That I will have to figure out as I go along. Now I'm also noticing that my text is different when I open this, so now I'm back to my original logo type text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take these two rectangles and I'm going to make them longer, so that the black one, I can't do it with both, I don't think, but the black one fits the golden ratio, which would mean that I would have to, I'm not going to do it, that's a lot of work for a tutorial, but if this was a real project, what that would mean would be that I would have to go back and fix this relationship on the letterhead and on the business card and the envelope and all of those places as well, but I'm just going to leave that for now. Now, let's get started. So, let me add the first rectangle, and I'm just going to make this like a big thing. We don't need a stroke. And for the fill, I'm just, see what happened there. I seem to have created another rectangle, which I don't want. Now, I have the Tschichold colors here, and since I have this blue here, let's go with the contrast and let's make this an orange. Is this too orange? Well, let's stick with this one then. Now, let's make a copy of this, go to the bottom one, and let's bring it up here, and let's change the color to, let's say, like a nice cinnamon. Yeah, okay. Now, making another one, and I'm always going to the bottom one because, let's see, okay, and I need to go to the path selection tool in order to change the color, and I'm going to make this like a gray, because remember, black, white and gray are your best friends. You need a little bit of gray, and hold on, I seem to be a little bit unaligned here. Need to adjust this exactly. So now what we have is, let me just put all three of these in a box so that I can open it and close it easily. So now I have separated this into a lot of different areas, but I have done it according to the rules of the golden ratio, which I have, again, I adjusted the width of the golden ratio diagram to the size of the A4. Now let's see what else we can do. Let's rotate this 180 degrees. So this is still correct. I mean, just because this has moved, it doesn't mean that the ratio has changed. You can use these measurements in different places, which I'm actually going to show you how to do in just a minute, using Zeynep's thing. So I'm just going to reduce the transparency of the group, so that now what I think I want to do is I want to bring this gray up, because the more neutrals you have, the better life will be for you. Let's see. Now bring this down, down, down. Make this go in here. Take a dupe. Let me bring the gray rectangle up. You may need to move things around when you do this. Now let me just make the opacity of the group go back to 100. Now I'm going to take this, go back to the path tool, so that I can select a different color. I have that turquoise up there, so it might be nice to have like a different tone of that turquoise here. Now let me just close this for a second. Take this. Move it over just a little bit. Now let's make this black. And close this here and hold on. And bring it again to the golden ratio. And we can do this a few more times again. We can maybe even add a little bit extra, but I don't think we need to. So now, here we have a second version where it's still following the golden ratio. However, it's now looking quite different. Now, let's close it. And let's do one like this. Now, if I open the guides and add a guide to this is actually almost perfect to here. Should be anyway, because I had aligned it like that, scaled it up like that. Now let's move these guys around according to that. Let's close the gray. Let's take the lighter pink, bring it up. Just close these so that I can see what I'm doing. No, this is not going to look good. See, I thought it might be interesting to bring this down, but I can already tell that this is going to look really patched up here. This is not going to work, I can tell. So let me take this guy and bring him over here, because I do want to have a nice big gray area here. Now let's move these down because we need to have these other things. Sorry again. So what I'm sensing is that if I actually take this, move it up here, then this is done. I don't need anything more. If I were to add another patch, it would probably become over-designed. And that's something that you always have to be careful of. But I'm just going to show you what I mean by putting this one right here, and then let's see, where is it? Where's my patch? It's right here. So see, if I have this as well, then this starts to become too much. So it's better to always have less, which is more, as the famous architect Sullivan stated many years ago. Let's just close the gaps, and then this, in my opinion, would be done. Now, one final thing. Let's just look at this one more time. What about if we want, this is the folder, right? So we want to make this logo type really big. So what I would do in this case is I would just flip the golden ratio, take the logo, move this guide over here now so that I do it perfectly, and just bring it up, and it's almost perfect. As you can see, there's a little bit missing here, but then I am not sure whether that actually has. Let me just do this. Let me just fit this perfectly, and then do this again. If I bring this down a tick, then it's fitting perfectly. Now let's go back to here. If I have a huge big logo like this, then hold on, now that I've opened up these, I can tell that this needs to get scaled up just a tick, and then scaled again, and then moved over a bit so that it fits perfectly. Now if I have a huge big logo like this, I wouldn't have all of these patches because they take away from the effectiveness of the logo. So what I would probably do in such a situation is I would probably take this and scale it to this, and then let's see, this is here. Get rid of the turquoise, we already have turquoise at the top, and then put this here, and let's see, I don't think I even need this. Again, I think this is becoming over-designed, so I would just make a big area, maybe put a photograph here, or maybe put a pattern, or some other kind of shape, or maybe put another version of the cat down here or something like that, but I would leave it like that. Now, one final word about how black, white and gray are your best friends. Don't forget that. You need the black, the gray, and the well, let me just open all of these other colors. So let's move this over here. Again, for me this is already over-designed. I wouldn't use it like that. I would just use a solid background. However, if you don't have this big neutral area here, and this does not necessarily have to be gray, it could also be white, and that would work beautifully as well. Black would be, obviously we already have the black here, so that wouldn't work. A medium gray would probably not work because it wouldn't create enough of a contrast with this, but an off-white, a white, or a dark gray are working very nicely, as you can see. And if you don't have that, if this were to be another color, let's just do that for the hell of it. Let's make it like this. Then see, you're losing it. You're losing the effectiveness of these colors because you no longer have enough of a neutral color. And if you were to put another color, it would probably get even worse, not better. So you really need that neutral thing to make your other colors pop up. So don't forget that ever. But like I said, in this particular situation, I would actually go with a completely neutral and big area into which I might add other things. And we will get to that when we are talking about adding other kinds of visual elements to this, like photographs and other vectors and things like that. So now let's apply the golden ratio thing to one of your homeworks, Zeynep's, which definitely needs some tender loving care. But I'm noticing that she doesn't have the envelope window here, so let me just bring one over real quick, because without that we can't really know what we're doing. We don't know where that is supposed to go. So now let me go back here. Bring this over, adjust it perfectly. So that's where the envelope window is supposed to be, and I have no idea how she managed to do this design without having that, but I guess she did it. Let me just delete these two black rectangles that I just used as guides. So this I can close. Now here's the thing. Let me just put it all the way in the background. Smart object. I need to rotate it, obviously, holding down the shift key so that it's a perfect 90-degree rotate. Let me scale it up. Again, we need to do this. Now, obviously we have a pretty bad case of over-design. We don't really know why this is cutting off here, why this is cutting off here, why they're not going all the way. There's a lot of things here that are unresolved. So it seems like she just slapped these down because, you know, she thought that it would be a good idea to do it. There's no real design thought process that has gone into this. Now the thing, and how can we fix that? Now the thing here is that you don't always have to have these measurements in this exact location where the big diagram actually tells you that they are. Now we have this band here, okay? We can move this up so that it comes up here. And because the important thing is that the proportions of this band are still the same to this and this. Now, so let me flip this horizontally so that we have a bigger one here and a smaller one here. Now let's take her rectangles and adjust them. Hold on, let me just close this here as well, and let me just zoom out to see exactly how I could do this. If I bring this down and then align the addresses to here, that would probably work. So let's take the green one and align it to here, and and then take the pink one. Let me just close this to make sure that we're perfectly aligned. Now, does she need these itty bitty pieces? Probably not. But we'll think about that later. Now, she has this logo, which has this small icon for the U, and the whole point of that is that icon. So, methinks that it would probably be a smart thing to make this quite a bit bigger on the letterhead. Now, this is not a vector smart object. Don't believe a word of what it says here. This was copy-pasted as a bitmap from another Photoshop document. What she should have done is she should have actually taken the vector smart object and the type, put it in a folder, and then drag the folder onto here so that everything is a vector. She didn't do that. She's going to correct that, obviously. Now, let's go back to here, and let's now add this, drag this guy to here, and we don't even really need to look at the thing anymore, the golden ratio rectangle for now. And now what I would do if I were her is I would, let's see, is this it? I would move this over here, and then where's the address? The address is right here, and I would move, whoops, what happened here? This layer is linked to something. Now why would this be linked to something? Okay, let me unlink it, and now let me move it over. I can't do anything to the typography because I don't have the font. She didn't send me the font, it seems. Now let's take this and move it down a tad, and well, hold on, I am going to scale it like this. I'm just going to select these path points and just move them over. That's going to be an easier way of scaling this. And now I need to get the phone and the online thing, and I need to move those over to here. So that this is, now let me just close this here. Let's close these here. So now this is aligned to here, and the logo has now become quite big, but I would align that to here so that it's aligned to this end here, and this is over here enough so that it is no longer ambiguous. Now when you align things or when you're putting things down on a on a page, on a layout, you either have to align them exactly, or you have to make sure that they are enough unaligned so that they are no longer ambiguous. We should never be looking at something and saying, is this aligned? Is this not? I mean, we can see very clearly here that this is not aligned to here. This is a different alignment. This is aligned to here. So that this works. Now, if I were to take all this stuff here, and where's her, this is it here, and this is it here. So if I were to take these two and have them be like this, okay, so they're very close. We can't really tell, are they aligned or are they not aligned? That's a no-no. But if it's like this, if it's enough separated in terms of alignment, then that is perfectly okay to do. Now, my designer's heart tells me that this would need some kind of gray or something to really make it work. So, and I'm not exactly sure how I would do that right now, but this, because it would need to get redesigned completely, I would probably add some other kind of neutral shape here, like a gray, maybe a medium gray or something like that, but I'm not exactly sure how I would do that. Now let's go back to these here, and let's open the golden rectangle, golden ratio thing. And now if I take these two and bring them down to the golden ratio and then scale them like this, but then also I think they are too thick, so I would probably also be scaling them like this, and I would make them exactly the same color as these other things. So this here, the pink here, let's see. Why are you always putting strokes around things, people? That's a totally useless thing to do. Now let me open it like this, and then, oh, hold on, it is the same color. Is it the same color? Son of a gun. So why is it looking so much lighter here? It could have to do with my computer, with the light. I thought they were different. Do we really need these? I don't think we do. I think we can get rid of them. Whoops. I think if we have this here, then that should be enough. But again, I'm going to go back to that. This does need another, an additional color, which is not over design. It needs it. It needs it. So what I would maybe do is I would maybe, let's see. Where's the grayscale stuff? Like a gray like this, or like this, probably. And then I would just scale this to like a very narrow band. Let me actually move this up and move this over here. See? Now it's actually coming to life, because it did need that extra little black, white, and gray are your best friends. It needed that extra little bit of black, white, and gray. And then what you could conceivably also do is maybe make a duplicate of that and add it down here, or maybe make that pink. Nope. See? It always works better when you have more neutrals. So, but does it really need that? No. What it does need is for the addresses, for the phone line, for the phone, online, address, and that line to move down, because we have a huge amount of space here, which people are probably going to be needing for the letter. Now, if this was darker, maybe this could become white, maybe just this icon here could become white, I'm not sure. You could play around with things like that as well. But anyway, the important thing is that what we did is we adjusted things to the golden ratio. So, let's see, here we are, and that was Zeynep's homework corrected. And that brings us to the end of the golden ratio tutorial. I know at the very start I said that I would also be using this here, the Tschichold diagram, and I may do that in a separate little tutorial, but I didn't have room to do it in this one. But I think the golden ratio thing will have helped you already. See you later.